All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to crack open the playbook that professional investigators use to manage their most important assets. Because, as it turns out, solving a really complex case isn't usually about some sudden aha moment. It's about something way more down to earth: smart, strategic project management.
So let's just jump right in with a big question. What is the number one reason investigations actually fail? Is it some brilliant, super elusive suspect or a critical clue that's just out of reach?
Well, the answer might surprise you. It's usually not that the case is unsolvable. It's because the team runs out of time, money, or the right people for the job. In other words, the number one reason for failure is, frankly, bad project management.
To really get a handle on this, we're going to use a really powerful metaphor, thinking of the investigator as a general contractor. So we'll walk through how they plan the job as the general contractor, then we'll talk about assembling the crew, calling in the specialists, finding the right tools, and finally, and this is maybe the most critical part, watching the burn rate.
Okay, first up, the general contractor, the person who's running the case manager, isn't always the one out there kicking down doors. No, they're the architect, the planner. They're the one holding the master blueprint for the entire operation.
And this right here is the absolute key takeaway. A great case manager doesn't need to be an expert in everything. See, their job isn't to be the master hacker and the forensic accountant all rolled into one. Nope. Their real job is to build and orchestrate a team of those experts. You see, every single investigation is built on three fundamental pillars. You've got your personnel, who's doing the work. Then you've got equipment, what tools do they need to get it done? And of course, financial, how much cash can we actually spend? And let me tell you, if just one of those is shaky, the whole thing can come crashing down fast.
Okay, so let's dig into that first pillar, the people. Assembling the crew isn't just about finding skilled investigators. It's about finding the right investigator for the right environment. Because getting this wrong, it's pretty much the fastest way to blow your whole case.
All right, let's make this real. Imagine your target lives in a super exclusive, high-end retirement community. It's quiet, everybody knows everybody, and a stranger sticks out like a sore thumb. So who do you send in to conduct surveillance without setting off every alarm bell on the block in the first 5 minutes?
And this shows perfectly how something like demographics becomes a critical tactical tool. I mean, the 25-year-old in the loud sports car is going to raise alarms instantly. But that older investigator, or maybe someone who could believably pose as a caregiver, they just disappear. They become invisible because they fit right into the environment.
The next big call you have to make is whether to use your own in-house team or bring in an outside contractor. Your internal folks are definitely cheaper and they know the company culture, but they might lack certain specialized skills or even just objectivity. Yeah, outsourcing costs more, no doubt, but what you're buying is access to a top-tier specialist and a level of impartiality that can be absolutely crucial, especially in really sensitive cases.
And that brings us right to our next point, calling in the specialists. A general contractor doesn't do their own plumbing, they hire a master plumber. Well, an investigator works the exact same way, building this go-to network of experts they can call up at a moment's notice.
This is your bench. Your subject matter experts, or SMEs as they're called. You need people like forensic accountants to, follow the money. You need computer forensic wizards who can pull data off a wiped hard drive. You might even need a question document examiner to tell you if a signature on a critical contract is a fake.
Okay, but here's a huge piece of advice. Before you hire any expert, you have to vet them. I mean, really vet them. Check their certifications, and this is critical, make sure they have what's called errors and omissions, or E&O insurance. Why is this so important? Because if your expert makes a mistake and they don't have that insurance, your entire case could get tossed out of court. All that work, just gone.
All right, let's move on to that second pillar, equipment. And just like with your people, the tools are never one size fits all. And the right tool in the wrong place, it can do way more harm than good. Let's take the surveillance vehicle, for example. It's not just a car, right? It's your mobile office, it's your cover, and the goal is never to be flashy. The goal is to be completely forgettable, to just fade into the scenery. The wrong vehicle is just as bad as the wrong person.
And as you can see, context is everything. A beat-up work van is totally invisible on a street full of contractors, but it's the most suspicious thing in the world in a luxury-gated community. Same thing for a fancy sedan parked in an industrial park at 2 a.m. The bottom line is simple. Your tool has to match the environment, period. And that brings us to the third and final pillar,
the one that makes everything else possible, the money. Because no matter how great your team is or how slick your gear is, the second the budget runs out, the investigation stops. Dead in its tracks. And that clock, it is always, always ticking.
So this all comes down to a really critical concept called the burn rate. It's basically the speed at which you're burning through your cash. It's literally the countdown timer on your whole operation. Because when that money is gone, the case is over. Doesn't matter if you've solved it or not.
Okay, let's do some quick math here. It's pretty simple. If you have 2 investigators on a surveillance job and they each cost $100 an hour, your burn rate is $200 per hour. So every single hour that ticks by, poof, another $200 is gone from your budget. Right, so you hear a $2,000 budget, and you might think, hey, that's a decent chunk of change. But at a burn rate of $200 an hour, what you've really bought yourself is just 10 hours of operational time. 10 hours, that's it. That's your window to get the evidence you need before the budget is gone and the project is a failure. So let's wrap this up with one final thought, a question to put you in the hot seat. Imagine you're the one in charge. You've managed your crew, you've managed your tools perfectly, but you are down to the last 5% of your budget. And at that exact moment, the best lead of the entire investigation lands in your lap. What's your move? Do you go all in, bet the last of your cash on this one lead? Or are you forced to just walk away? That right there is the brutal, high-stakes reality of resource management.